Now, if you had to put a title on it, we could call it A Deep Tale of Two Cities. Genesis 1, we'll start back in verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Verse 2, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. Last word of the verse, waters. The deep is deep waters. He explained it in the verse what the deep is by just repeating a phrase and saying water. Okay, so what's under this and why has he buried it underwater? We're going to find, there's some wild stuff, of course. What you're going to find is prophecy runs both ways. Sometimes prophecy is telling you about something you didn't know in the past. Sometimes it's telling you about something that will fulfill itself in the future. And sometimes, like tonight, it's going to tell you two things at the same time. Things you didn't know and things that are yet to come. Isaiah 23. Isaiah 23, verse 11. God's mad at something in particular. Now, of course, Lucifer's rebellion has angered him, but there's something more to it than just that. It's he could have destroyed Lucifer at the blink of an eye. But something had revolted him about this globe. So he said, I've got to destroy that. So obviously, whatever Lucifer did, it contaminated the whole globe. Isaiah 28, verse 11. 23, verse 11. Y'all have to read my notes for me. Speaking of God, he stretched out his hand over the sea and shook the kingdoms. The Lord hath given a command against the merchant city to destroy the stronghold thereof. Now, just so you know that I'm talking about something in particular, let's get the context for the chapter. What's the big first word of the chapter, the first verse of the chapter? The burden of Tyre. The very place where we find Satan, or Lucifer, revealed as the prince and then the king. This is Isaiah's prophecy of what Ezekiel is going to pick up on and prophesy about too. Both of them are prophesying about the same thing. Genesis 4, verse 17. Something about cities that God doesn't necessarily like. Cities are centers for basically wickedness. You get a bunch of people together, well, people are just basically wicked. So you get a bunch of them together, you got a bunch of wickedness. Genesis 4, verse 17. Here's the first Adamic city from the descendants of Adam that shows up in the Bible. Genesis 4, verse 17. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch, and builded a city, and called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. Okay, so he's going to have a city built, and he's a murderer. First city is founded on a murder, or by a murderer. That's setting the context for you. It's setting the tone for what a city is. All the way through, rarely are you going to find a good city. You'll find a couple of them. Genesis 4, look back at verse 16. And Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod on the east of Eden. He built this city because he thought, I'm comfortable now. I'm out of the presence of the Lord. It doesn't sound good for cities. Let's find a city that's named that we know is bad. Revelation 17. Revelation 17, verse 5. Yeah, much worse. This one's been in business much longer than Washington. Revelation 17:5. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. The abominations, plural, of the earth. That's heavy right there. He's saying all abominations of the earth have found their root in this one right here, this city. He's named it. He called it a great city. Look at verse 18. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city, which reigneth over the kings of the earth. This is the capital city of the earth. We're going to find a similarity to Lucifer's earth in a minute. Ezekiel 27. Ezekiel 27, verse 25. Ezekiel 27, 25. And I want to find something before I take you there. Go back to 27, verse 1. The word of the Lord came again unto me, saying, Now thou son of man, take up a lamentation for Tyrus, the city. And this is what he's going, same thing we saw in Isaiah, same thing we're going to see repeated again in Ezekiel. We're in Ezekiel 27, verse 25. The ships of Tarshish did sing of thee in the market. That is, they were happy because they were bringing goods to the market. And thou wast replenished and made very glorious in the midst of the seas. That is, Tyrus, you were made great because all of the merchants brought all of their merchandise into you. And you became a great city. But it's a great city of wickedness. Look at 27:25. No, that's where we just were. Look at Isaiah 23. Isaiah 23, verse 1. The burden of Tyre. Howl, ye ships of Tarshish, for it is laid waste, so that there is no house, no entering in. From the land of Shittim it is even revealed to them. Be still, ye inhabitants of the isles, to whom the merchants of Zion that pass over the sea have replenished, and by great waters the seed of Sihor, and the harvest of the rivers is her revenue, and she is a mart of nations. A mart, and we understand what a mart is. We've been to Walmart, and there used to be a company called Kmart. Okay, it's a place where you do business, merchandise. And she was a mart, a nation known for having business. And it's about making money. It ain't a business if it ain't making money. It won't be for long. Revelation 17. Revelation 17, verse 1. And there came one of the seven angels, which had the seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. There's that water everywhere. Keeps popping up. Verse 2. With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunken with the wine of her fornication. So all of the earth is doing business with this one mystery Babylon as he's revealed. Look at chapter 18. Revelation 18, verse 3. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. They're all involved in this. And the kings, the political leaders of the earth, have committed fornication with her. And the merchants of the earth are waxen rich through the abundance of her delicacies. This merchant thing is going to repeat all the way through. God gives you certain words to latch on to and know what he's talking about, and he'll repeat them. If you're going to refer to something wicked, The devil in type is referred to as Tyre, referred to as Pharaoh, referred to as a merchant. Revelation 18, look at verse 15. Revelation 18, verse 15. The merchants of these things, which were made rich by her, shall stand afar off for fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, and saying, Alas, alas, that great city that was clothed in fine linen, purple, and scarlet, and decked with gold, and precious stones, and pearls. For in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught, and every shipmaster, and all the companies in ships, and sailors, and as many as trade by the sea, stood afar off. This is the destruction of this city when God takes it down. And you're going to see it's a worldwide catastrophe, just as we'll find was in the day of Lucifer. Look at Revelation 17:15. Revelation 17:15. And he said unto me, The waters which thou sawest where the whore sitteth are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. It's many nations. It's everything that moves is under the rule of something, a city and a leader of the city. That would be Babylon and its leader, the devil. Look at Revelation 18:11. You can't have a merchant city without merchandise. Revelation 18:11. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth her merchandise any more. The merchants of gold and silver and precious stones and pearls and fine linen and purple and silk and scarlet and all fine wood and all manner of vessels of ivory and all manner of vessel of precious wood and of all brass and iron and marble and cinnamon and odors and ointments and frankincense and wine and oil. Why does he have to go into such detail? And fine flour and wheat and beasts and sheep and horses and chariots and slaves. Now look at this. And souls of men. Somebody's buying souls. Who is it? Who's doing the buying? Merchants. They're making merchandise out of people. Now, it's not slaves, because slaves is a different category. Slaves and souls of men. Two separate categories. Look at it in 2 Peter. 2 Peter 2. 2 Peter 2, verse 3. And through covetousness shall they with feigned word make merchandise of you. That is, you become the merchandise. Whose judgment now for a long time lingereth not, and their damnation slumbereth not. For if God spared not the angels that sinned, why did he tie it right back into that? He's tied it all the way back to Lucifer. This same issue. Making merchandise of souls. He says, but cast them down to hell and delivered them unto the chains of darkness to be reserved unto judgment. Let's find the judgment of this city. Now here's something interesting. You're going to find it given two judgments because it's going to fall twice. You're going to have the fall of Lucifer's earth, referred to as, or not the earth, Lucifer's city, referred to in type in the Bible as Babylon. One time it's said to drown, and one time it's said to burn. Okay, those two are not the same. Those are the way God exhibits his wrath, is through water and through fire. This earth has been dunked once, next time coming up it's fire. Same with Babylon. Babylon got drowned the first time around. Next time around, it's going down with fire. Jeremiah 15. Jeremiah 51. Dyslexia is kicking in tonight. Jeremiah 51, verse 64. I know it. Jeremiah 51:64. And thou shalt say, thus shall Babylon sink, and shall not rise from the evil that I will bring upon her. And they shall be weary. Thus far are the words of Jeremiah. So let's find something here. Did it ever sink? Did Babylon drown? No. Now they did just the opposite to break into Babylon. They dried the river in order to use the riverbed to come into the city. Just the opposite of drowning, isn't it? And that's how Babylon fell under Belshazzar. So it's not the same. There is a time that it drowned. The time it drowned is when God dunked it in Genesis 1:2. Look at it in Exodus 15. Satan is not an original. He copies everything. He's a copycat. So what you're going to find is the more you know about God, the real thing, the more you can spot the counterfeit. And here is the counterfeit. Remember we talked about Pharaoh being a type of the devil. Exodus 15, verse 4. Pharaoh's chariots and his host shall he cast into the sea. His chosen captains also are drowned in the Red Sea. Now watch this. The depths have covered them. They sank, what's that next word? Into the bottom as a stone. Into, not to. That's different than the way we say it, isn't it? We would say they sank to the bottom. He says into. That is, they went into the crust. Now here, the depths, the same thing God said that was covering the earth was the depths, the deep. Let's find it again, Revelation 18. Revelation 18:21. Now this is where Babylon is going to be burned with fire, not with water, but notice how the prophecy begins. Revelation 18:21. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down and shall be confounded no more at all, and shall be found no more at all. I told you I can't read tonight. So he starts the prophecy with a picture of how Babylon fell the first time. First, Babylon was not in Genesis 11. I have bad news for the people who think that Nimrod started Babylon. It was not Nimrod. It was Lucifer. Lucifer started the first Babylon. Nehemiah 9. Nehemiah 9, verse 11. And thou didst divide the sea before them, so that they went through the midst of the sea on dry land. And their persecutors thou threwest into the deeps, just like we've seen before, as a stone into the mighty waters. I know that they think that that's the Nile, and yes, they did die in the Nile, but maybe there's something else going on here too. That's right. As they're dying, they're sinking in the water, and he gives them a time warp into a next dimension, and they go through the depths. That's a scary spot. Revelation 18:8. Revelation 18:8. We've seen she's going to drown. She's going to sink like a stone, never to rise again. But then she comes back. Next time around, God says, no, I'm going to burn you this time, incinerate you. Revelation 18:8. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire. For strong is the Lord God who judgeth her. So next time around, she's burning. First time around, she's drowned. And that's the way God's judgments always land. It's water first and then burning. Why? Because water, you can, what they call it, remediation. If your house floods and you call in the mold remediation to clean out your house, there ain't no remediation from a fire. There's nothing left. You'll remediate some ashes. That's what he's doing to the city the next time around. Now, it's a city. We have a city too. The devil's a mimicker. He didn't say, I no longer want any thrones. I want everybody to be equal and we'll have a democracy. He didn't come up with a new system. He says, no, I want to lift my throne above God's. He's going to imitate what's already there. Well, he's going to imitate a rock, just like we have a rock. He's going to imitate the king. He's going to imitate all of it. Look at Deuteronomy 32. Deuteronomy 32, 31. Deuteronomy 32, 31. For their rock is not as our rock, even our enemies themselves being judges. So he shows up as a rock, but it's a phony rock. It's not any rock you want. So what's the bad music that the kids are listening to? It's called rock and roll. Why do they call it rock? Because there are leaders behind it. Psalm 48, verse 2. Psalm 48, verse 2. Here's the good city. It says, beautiful for situation, the joy of the whole earth is Mount Zion on the sides of the north, the city of the great king. Ah, that's the city. So Lucifer decided he was going to build him a city too. He's going to have a throne, and he's going to outdo God. Well, God said, we'll see about that. But that's what he does. He imitates, and he mocks and mimics. Look at Galatians 4. The real city is heavenly. And it's an imitation of something that will be on earth, Jerusalem. Galatians 4, verse 26. But Jerusalem, which is above, is free, which is the mother of us all. Speaking of Christians. So we have a city too that we belong to. The devil's going to have a city too. It's a global city in the tribulation. And everybody's going to be a world citizen. You've heard that phrase before, a world citizen. You're not going to think locally, you're going to think globally. Yeah, because you're all going down, or they are. Revelation 21. Revelation 21, verse 2. And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. Now, this is where it's pointed. A city is always referred to as a female in the Bible. I don't know why that is, but it always is. And so the picture is that the city is as a bride. Okay. So the devil has a city because he wants a bride. And he wants children. The children of the world. The children of darkness. You find that runs all the way through. There's a good and there's a bad. Why such destruction of that earth? What was going on that made God so absolutely mad that he destroyed the whole thing rather than just picking out a few rebellious beings and punishing them? Jude 1. Jude 1, verse 6. So here's some beings that are on Lucifer's earth with him. Jude 1, 6. And the angels which kept not their first estate. What's an estate? It's a place you live, your real estate. But left their own habitation, he hath reserved in everlasting chains, under darkness, unto the judgment of the great day. So, those that left and joined Lucifer in his rebellion, he has locked away. Now that's past tense. That's already been done. It's going to happen again in Revelation 12. Revelation 12, verse 3. Revelation 12, 3. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having seven heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. And his tail drew a third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to deliver her child as soon as it was born, devour her child as soon as it was born. It's going to happen again. A third is going to fall in the future. But it's the same system. It repeats over and over. Isaiah 24. Isaiah 24, verse 22. Isaiah 24, 22. And they shall be gathered together as prisoners are gathered in the pit. Yeah, because he's going to chain them up in, how did he put it in Jude? Reserved in chains of darkness. That's right. So he says in Isaiah 24, 22, they shall be gathered together as prisoners are gathered in the pit, and shall be shut up in the prison, and after many days they shall be visited. Yep, the judgment of the great day. Verse 23, so you know what's going on. He puts a time stamp on it. Then the moon shall be confounded, the sun ashamed, when the Lord of hosts shall reign in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem, and before his ancients gloriously. Okay, so there he's laid it all out. Isaiah 14. Isaiah 14, you know the famous passage in Isaiah 14 is about Lucifer saying, I'll ascend and I'll be like the Most High. But here's a section of Isaiah 14 people don't talk about. Isaiah 14, 17. They made the world as a wilderness and destroyed the cities thereof. This is still a reference to Lucifer. In Isaiah, what is that? Starts in verse 12, where he says, I'm going to ascend and I'll be, 5 times he says, I. Here, verse 17, this is what he was doing. That made the world as a wilderness and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the houses of his prisoners. So he took prisoners. He had a jail, locked them away. You notice, if you go through the Bible, the Levitical system does not have a jail. Could you imagine that? Bring your jail along with you as coming through the wilderness there. No, punishment was given when it needed it. And then you're done. Just like you and I. God doesn't pout and, have a bad attitude toward you. No, he punishes you and you get over it. Move on. Start over. Verse 18. All the kings of the nations, even all of them lie in glory, even one as in his own house. But thou art cast out of thy grave like an abominable branch, and as the raiment of those that are slain, thrust through with a sword, that go down to the stones of the pit. Now, I emphasize that because we'll pick up on that in a minute. As a carcass trodden under feet. Now, this is all a reference to the same Lucifer who's going to ascend. And God says, no, you're going just the opposite. Now, he's put some things in there. One of the things he says about him is that he goes down to the stones of the pit. All right, so what's he talking about? Ezekiel 28. Ezekiel 28, verse 14. Ezekiel 28:14. Thou art the anointed cherub that covereth, obviously Lucifer, and I have set thee so. Thou wast upon the holy mount of God. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. So I think that God stands on the lake of fire, and at the time that Lucifer was the head cherub, he was allowed to go there too, to walk up and down it, just like it was all open and he could go anywhere he wanted. He had full reign. Look at verse 18. Here's why God's mad at him. Ezekiel 28:18. Thou hast defiled thy sanctuaries by the multitude of thine iniquities. What was his iniquity? Stealing money. By the iniquity of thy traffic. Wherefore I will bring forth a fire from the midst of thee, it shall devour thee, and I will bring thee to ashes upon the earth in the sight of all them that behold thee. Whew. That's what was going on. Now we know that's going to go on in the future. Matthew 24. Matthew 24. Matthew 24, verse 15. Speaking of when the Antichrist is going to come back or show up. Isaiah 24:15. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. So he's saying, when you see him defiling the sanctuary again, then get out and start running, because I get mad when that happens. And he's done it before, and he's going to do it again. Now, I might have this out of order, but I think it fits better here. Go to Ezekiel 28:18. Ezekiel 28:18. You know, Ezekiel 28 is about this burden of Tyrus. Ezekiel 28:18. He says, thou hast defiled thy sanctuaries. Okay, so once it's defiled, God doesn't want to have anything to do with it. Now look at the other prophecy of the same situation by a different prophet, Isaiah. Isaiah 24, verse 5. You can read these chapters together and they're a book match. Isaiah 24:5. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinances, and broken the everlasting covenant. So that's just showing you how that all fits. Look at 1 Timothy 6. 1 Timothy 6, verse 10. He says, for the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. He says the love of money is the root of all evil. I'm a Bible believer. The Bible says it, I believe it. I'm not going to come up with some other way around it. You want to know where evil began? It began right there, coveting money. Now, I'm not saying that rich people are the source of evil. Poor people can covet it just as much as rich people can. But God told you evil began with somebody coveting filthy lucre. Absolutely, it was money. He could have used any other word there he wanted to, and he said it was money. Look at 2 Thessalonians 2. 2 Thessalonians 2, verse 4. Here's The Antichrist. Who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, just like he did in Isaiah 14, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God, just so he can defile the sanctuary again. And that's what he's going to do. 2 Peter 3. Second Peter 3, verse 12. He says, well, 2 Peter 3, he starts off with telling you about Lucifer's earth and how it was demolished in water. And then he talks about the earth that is now. And now he's going to tell you there's another one coming. He says, looking for and hastening unto the coming of the day of God, wherein the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. Nevertheless, we, according to his promise, look for new heavens and a new earth, wherein dwelleth righteousness. All right, we get to end on a positive, happy note tonight. That's what was under the depths that God covered up when he drowned the earth. And, I'll show you one other thing. I got to shut up. My mind is moving now. Genesis 1. Let's, if you go through these days, you're going to notice a word that identifies when God does something. It's almost like a to-do list. The list begins, each item on the list, the bullet point way that he identifies it is a word. The word and. Did this, bullet point, and this. Okay, that's telling you a sequence of time. After this, then this, then this. Notice verse 1. There's no and. It's simply in. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. That was something that started way back. After that, something happens, and that's in time, and the earth was without form and void. Verse 3, and God said, for some time the earth was without form and void. Verse 4, each time that word and shows up, you can just see him after one thing has done, then he's moved on to the next thing. Notice where the time bracket is for when your first day begins. Where does the first day begin? That's where it ends. Where does it begin? So where did it begin? At the end of verse 5, it's over, and he said that was day 1. I'd say it was 2. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved. There's the action. The Spirit of God moves. Something is changing now. Mm-hmm. Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Night's always first. The Jewish calendar, the Jewish always start with the evening and then go to the morning. Their day begins at 6 p.m. So it's darkness first and then light. How does a person come into the world? They're in darkness, in water, and then they get light. How do you get new birth? You come out of darkness into his marvelous light. It's all the same. So there's how the day began. The day began darkness on the face of the deep, the Spirit of God moves, and then he says, let there be light. So from darkness to light, and then he produces it, and he says, we'll call that day one. That began in the middle of verse 2, or toward the end of verse 2. So from verse 1 to the first half of verse 2 is in time past. It's not part of day one. It's when God first created heaven and earth. Has nothing to do with day one. Day 1 through day 7 is God recreating the earth. Is when he pulls it up out of the pool and redecorates for Adam. All right, we better cut it off there. That's heavy duty stuff. Maybe we'll get to the gap next week.